couch, dogs, me, guitar lessons. Hey there, Lick and Riffers, how are you doing? Welcome to another awesome guitar lesson right here on Lick and Riff. And this lesson is going to be particularly awesome because I'm going to give you the ultimate beginner's guide to alternate tunings. I'm going to teach you no less than 8 alternate tunings. Most of them are going to be open tunings, so you can experiment with them. And I'm also going to give you many tips and tricks on how to improvise and experiment with open tunings. So the very basic alternate tuning, you probably already know it. It's drop D. Drop D is an alternate tuning because it's not the standard tuning. The standard tuning is E, A, D, G, B, E. And for drop D, you detune the 6th string down to D, down a whole step. The easiest way to do it without a tuner is to play the D string, the 4th, and play the 6th string along with it while detuning it until you hear them align. See? They've aligned. And if you go too far, don't worry, just retune it back up until you hear them align. See? It's a very strong feeling once you hear them align. And basically, the thing to remember about drop D tuning is whenever you have a chord with the 6th string in it, just compensate for the detuning and play it 2 frets up. For example, if you have G, then instead of 3 on the bass, you'll play it on 5, 2 frets up. So you'll have 3 on the E string and 5 on the 6th string, and you'll play, you'll mute the A string, okay, using your finger here, because you don't want to play something like this. Okay, this is too uncomfortable, so it's this. And you'll probably play it in finger style, so you'll play strings 1, 2, 3, and 6 anyway, so you won't need the 5th string. And that's for G. Now the drop D tuning gives us a low D bass, so you have, a very rich D chord, or a very deep D minor chord. Okay? How strong is that? Now, for many classical arrangements, you have a drop D tuning, especially for Bach arrangements, because the drop D tuning actually utilizes the guitar in a really smart way. But we won't get into it right now. Just know that you have the drop D tuning as your basic alternate tuning. Now, the second alternate tuning is taking the A string and detuning it to G. Now, it's a drop D G tuning because you tune the 6th string down to D, and you tune the 5th string down to G, so you can compare it to the 3rd string, which is G. Okay, until you hear them align. Okay, or if you went too low, just tune it back up and compare it to the 3rd string. And this, the drop D G tuning or drop G tuning, is actually an open G6 chord, okay, because you have a G chord here, and the open E string is the 6th of a G chord, so we have G6, an open G6. Now, if you want to play a G chord, put 3 on the E string, and then you have a G chord. Now, this alternate tuning is actually very rare because it's very arrangement specific. It's called for when you need a low G bass and a low D bass. For example, if you're playing a high G chord and you want, a full G chord sound, and also, a low D bass as well in your arrangement. So the open G6 is just a step between the drop D and the open G. Now for open G, you play this, D, G, okay, as your bass notes. The rest of the guitar, strings 2, 3, and 4 remain the same. And you tune the E down to D. Okay? And you have an open G tuning. Now here we start toying around with open tunings because we have the chord as our tuning. Now the uses for this are almost infinite. You can play on this one, on open G, you can toy around with voicings of G, C, and D like this. You have 12, 12, and 12 for G. you have kind of an F-shaped chord, but on strings 2, 3, and 4, you'll play 10, 11, and 12 for D chord. Okay? Then you have the low D bass. Okay? And you take this 2 frets down for C. And this sounds really interesting too. Then you have D here. Okay? 5, 7, 7, and 7. Okay? From the bar. But you have the rest of the guitar tuned down. And you can take this down to C. And you can play 3, 4, and 5 on strings 2, 3, and 4 for a G chord. Okay? And then play this. Or you can play A. This is an interesting chord here. Or you can play, you know, this. From the C chord, you can play 1 and 2 on strings 2 and 4. Okay? And then play this. And you can toy around with it. And you can find more things on your own. But the real fun of open tunings starts with frets 2 and 4. Now this is the fun thing about open tunings. Mostly you can use frets 2 and 4 and open strings to create magic. Let me show you what I mean. You can just experiment with frets 2 and 4 on the 4 bass strings. Okay, and on the second string you only have 2. Okay. Okay. You can play 1 if you want it in the scale on the second string. But I think 2 gives it an interesting feel. Okay. And you can just experiment with frets 2 and 4 and see what you can come up with. But remember to blend many open strings inside so you can get the harp sort of sound going. Okay, now why do frets 2 and 4 work so well? Because you have D, B, G, D, G, D. So you have 3 D strings and 2 G strings. And if it works on one string, it'll work on the 3 others. And if it works on one G string, it will work on the other. Okay, so okay, you'll have a really interesting scale here. Now on the second string, you can play 1 if you want it in the scale. Okay? Or you can play 2 if you want an interesting mode. Okay? Okay, it's an interesting sound, so you can experiment with that. Okay? And if you want a blues sort of sound, play frets 3 and 5. Okay, again, all except for the second string, give it a bluesy sound. And since you have G here, then you have C on the 5th fret, and you have D on the 7th. Okay, so you can play a rock and roll, or a country riff, or a blues riff. Now, for a blues riff, you have 2 and 3 here. And since we're playing it on the D string, you can play it on the D string or the D bass string. Okay, and you can do the same with C. You can play 2 frets up and 3 frets up. Okay, or you can take a slide and have a little fun. Now, I'm used to playing the traditional sort of sliding, so can play around with frets 3 and 5 to get the bluesy sound. Okay, I just wanted to give you an example of slide guitar using the open tuning. But this is not a slide lesson, this is an open tunings lesson. So let's move on to the next one. The next one would be an open G minor. And you just take the B string, the second string, and tune it 1 half step down to B flat. Okay, you can play 3 on the third string and see if you're right. Okay, and then you have G minor here. Now for G minor, you do have 2 on the second string. And this being G minor, you'll want to use the blues scale. Okay, so you have 2 on the second string. That's the only difference. Just don't use 2 and 4, just use 3 and 5. And then if you want, you know, the fourth here, then you'll play a bar on 5 again for C minor, but you'll want D major. So just play 1 fret up, compensate for the detuning on the second string. And you'll have D, okay? Bar on 7, 8 on the second string, okay? And if you want the sixth also, then you can play it 1 fret up, okay? And you'll have E flat. Okay? So experiment with that. It'll give you a sort of a classical sort of open tuning. Okay? So the next tuning, let's tune this back up. Okay? The next tuning is gonna be the modern acoustic fingerstyle tuning, which is DAD-GAD. It's D-A-D, G-A-D. And we already have D, D, and G here, and also D here. So we'll tune the B down a whole step to A. Okay? Until you get that crystalline sound. And use this to tune G up to A. Okay? And you have this. Now, the same rules apply. 2 and 4 and 3 and 5. 3 and 5 for the minor, 2 and 4 for the major. So just experiment with that the same way you experimented with the open G tuning. You get the same results. Okay, 3 and 5 give you the blues, 2 and 4 give you that tapestry of magic. So this is actually D sus4 tuning, and to tune it to open D, all you need to do is tune the G string from G to F sharp. Hear the major chord. And again, you have the same idea here, and it's the same idea with the slide. So, okay, the open strings are D, and then on 5 you have G, and then on 7 you have A. Again, on 5 and 3 you have the blues scale, the minor scale. And you can also experiment with 6, with 8, with 10, with 12. Okay? I'm not too good with the slide, I'm just fooling around, but open tunings are for fooling around. So just fool around with it. This is the open D tuning. Now the next one, for the next one, we're gonna have to work a little bit to retune our guitar. So okay, we have E and B. Okay, so we have Okay, E, B, and G again. And now we also have A and we have D. So, okay, we have drop D again. Okay, we're back to drop D. Let's tune the sixth string down to C. You can compare it with G, and that gives you a sort of a power chord. And tune the A string down to G again. Okay? So you get sort of a strange open C major 7 tuning, and you can call it drop C G. So you have C and G on the bass notes. Now, again, this is very arrangement specific, and it's a step between the standard tuning and our next tuning. But you can also use that. You can play the C chord like this. Again, 1 and 2 on strings 2 and 4. And you'll have an interesting sort of deep C chord. Okay, and also G using strings 3, 4, and 5. And you can play 3 on the second string or 3 on the first string. Okay, now as it is right now, it's a drop C-G tuning, and again, it's not very, very applicable, but it pays to know these things. You might come across an arrangement you really, really like, and you'll want to transcribe it, but the tuning will sound really weird, really low, and you'll see the guy playing or the girl playing, you know, interesting chords, but they look like D and F and, you know, normal chords, and you'll ask yourself, what's going on? Doesn't sound right, and then you'll remember, hey, the bass note sounds really low, so maybe I should try C, and it'll work. So it pays to know these things. Now, I said that this is the middle step between the standard tuning and our last open tuning, which is open C. So for open C, you need to tune the 6th string down to C, then the 5th string down to G, then the D string down to C, so compare it to the bass note. And then you have G again, and then you tune the B string up to C. Right? So compare it either to the 4th or the 6th string, and you have E as your 1st string anyway. This is open C. How rich is that? It's a bit low, but it's so much fun. It fills the room. So C, G, C, G, C, and E. Now, again, you can do the same shtick. Except for E, because we didn't change anything on E. So on E, just play the normal C scale. Okay? Okay, you see, and just, you know, just let your fingers flow. Now, don't forget, add many, many open strings to whatever you play. Just choose a couple of frets, toy around, you know, just fool around them, and add as many open strings as you possibly can. And you can also bar whole frets and try to see how that sounds. You can also, you know, hammer them on while doing the Ted Bundy thing of tapping and pulling off back to 0 while playing hammered on chords. There's no limit to what you can do with open tunings, actually. It sounds very, very restrictive because you have an open chord as your basic tuning, but it really frees up your playing. Now, granted, too many open tunings can become a bit boring and a bit repetitive because you can recognize an open tuning and you can't really do that many chords using open tunings unless you actually sit down and learn the new chord shapes that go along with it. You see, normal chord shapes don't apply here. So that's why open tunings are a bit difficult when you want to really soar with them. But as you know, as an exercise and improvisation and in ear training and in fingerstyle and in slide, open tunings are amazing. They're an amazing tool, and you know, it pays to know open tunings because you never know when you might learn something interesting in open tuning. And that's the lesson for now. Go to the website to download the instruction sheet and the cheat sheet, and I'll see you in the next lesson. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do right now. What have you got to lose? There's tons of material already on Lick and Riff, and I upload a new lesson every few days to a week. So join the Lick and Riff community. I'd love to have you here. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now. Enjoy.